K2 Weather every hour is brought to you by Teplic Laser Vision, your vision for the future.
On World News tonight, the Bush administration frustrated by China at every turn. Maybe the Brazilians can help. Trouble in River City, anger in the Cincinnati streets. The FBI is now investigating. Medicine on the cutting edge tonight, what the scientists have found in fat. The gruesome murder case involving gay men in Arkansas, and the accusations of media bias. We'll take a closer look. And having to pay taxes on stock options even when they go down in value.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening, everyone. The United States is waiting for China. There are no signs today that the Bush administration has done anything yet to convince the Chinese to let the U.S. Navy crew go. At the White House today, unless they have something up their sleeve, the Bush administration seems to have been left dangling by the Chinese government. We're going to check in there first. ABC's Terry Moran. Is there a fair assessment, Terry?
Absolutely, Peter. In private, one official has admitted, quite frankly, that it has been now more than 36 hours since the U.S. government has heard anything formal from the Chinese.
Pessimism from the president. For the first time, Mr. Bush described the stalled negotiations as having reached a stalemate.
This administration is doing everything we can to end the stalemate in an efficient way. We're making the right decisions to bring the solution to an end.
At the daily briefing, Press Secretary Ari Fleischer was peppered with sharply skeptical questions, and he acknowledged there have been setbacks.
That is the nature of these types of accidents where, unfortunately, diplomacy moves forward, not forward, it starts, it pauses.
The administration has also opened up another channel to the Chinese. Officials say Brazilian President Fernando Cardoso has been asked to raise the spy plane issue when he meets with Chinese President Zhang tomorrow in Brazil.
And that effort is part of a broader outreach through American embassies in countries where President Zhang has been visiting. But, Peter, tonight the sticking point remains what it has been for several days, the language.
Many thanks, Terry. The Chinese President Jiang Zemin is still in Latin America. Today he said the Chinese position is still clear. He also said he trusted the ability of both countries to get beyond this impasse. This business of a U.S. apology to China is a fairly complicated one for both the U.S. and China. Both Mr. Bush and the Chinese president are under pressure not to be seen as bending to the other's will. Our Asia correspondent Mark Litke tells us tonight that in China, the phrase, "I'm sorry for whatever," has a whole different meaning than it does here.
It is rare to hear an apology uttered on the streets of China. No sorries, no excuse-me's. Apologies are considered far too important here, too complicated to be used so casually. From their youth, Chinese learned the complexities of offering and receiving regrets. To have to say sorry is humiliating, so serious consideration is given to which way it should be said. There's Yihan, a mild and ambiguous apology, similar to regret. Baoqian, a more serious form of I'm sorry, usually accompanied by a slight bow. Then Daoqian, the legal and formal apology, in which the speaker accepts full responsibility for his actions. This is the apology China wants from the United States.
Apologize. One single word. And you can get the release of American 24 coup man immediately.
While China claims to hold the moral high ground in this confrontation, its communist officials actually have a terrible record when it comes to apologizing for their own mistakes, such as the brutality of the Cultural Revolution. Through the 60s and 70s, millions were painfully forced to apologize for crimes they never committed. Many were tortured and killed. China's leaders have never apologized for this. It might call into question the legitimacy of communist rule. But in the current conflict, Chinese leaders see a chance to strengthen their image by making an adversary kowtow before them. Just like emperors of old, today's leaders feel they're owed nothing less than Daoqian, that strongest version of an apology. Mark Litke, ABC News, Beijing.
Just back to the White House quickly now, and Terry Moran. Terry, I know the White House says the Navy jet did absolutely nothing wrong and there's no reason to apologize, but some Americans say if an apology would free the Navy crew, why not? What's the White House position?
Well, it is a fair question, as they acknowledge. Their answer is twofold. First, that specific reason, the Navy plane, they say, was operating in international airspace, perfectly legal, and came down under legal emergency procedures. But the general and broader reason is that an apology, they say, would set a bad formal precedent which could limit U.S. military maneuvers in international airspace and international waters, which they say are perfectly legal under international law and crucial to U.S. security interests.
The long-term ramifications.
That's
Many
right.
thanks. Terry Moran at the White House. Just a few notes about the crew and the collision. This is a picture of the military guest house, I hope, on Hainan Island where they're being held. The Pentagon said today that after the collision, the crew did what it could to warn the Chinese. They had no choice but to land on Hainan, putting out as many as 20 Mayday calls on all the international channels, the pilot signaling his intentions to land on Chinese soil, and the Chinese never responded. Now to some of the other news today. In Cincinnati, the FBI has begun investigating if police violated civil rights law when they shot and killed an unarmed teenager on Saturday. He is the 4th black man killed by Cincinnati police since November and the 15th since 1995. Many people are angry. ABC's Dean Reynolds is in Cincinnati tonight.
Mostly young crowds were on the streets for a second time in 12 hours today, protesting the latest shooting death of a black man by police. The riots today and overnight erupted in the wake of the shooting on Saturday of 19-year-old Timothy Thomas. Thomas, who was unarmed, had 14 misdemeanor warrants for his arrest. He was shot as he was chased on foot by police. He is the 4th African-American killed here by police since just November. Yesterday, his mother attended an emotional city council meeting.
You took a part of my life from me.
All right.
So I demand to know why.
The police chief apologized and promised an investigation. The officer involved in the shooting said he feared Thomas was drawing a gun. But a police videotape of at least part of the incident, a tape that might help the public understand what happened, was impounded by authorities for a possible grand jury investigation. Mayor Charles Luken acknowledges his city is deeply divided along racial lines.
I'm as frustrated as everybody else in this city, and I don't have a rabbit in the hat to make it go away.
Black leaders who have sued the city over racial profiling say the police force should stop sending inexperienced white officers into black neighborhoods.
Most of the shootings are based on subjective fear of blacks, as opposed to objective factors to justify you shooting in fear of your own life.
Late today, the mayor here said the situation is scary, and it reminded him of the civil rights clashes of the 1960s. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Cincinnati.
The Attorney General John Ashcroft is in Oklahoma City today meeting with families of those who died when the federal building was bombed by Timothy McVeigh. Many of them want to see McVeigh die. ABC's Pierre Thomas is there.
For the Attorney General, the message from some of the survivors and family members was clear. They want to watch Timothy McVeigh die.
He executed my wife, so now it's time for his execution. So I'd like to see him draw his last breath.
I want to see the end of Timothy McVeigh.
A visibly moved Attorney General Ashcroft toured the memorial.
Folks who come here to see this, and especially with you, will never forget it. I know I will never forget it.
In a closed meeting, Ashcroft heard family members of those who died in the bombing 6 years ago make their case for why they should be allowed to view McVeigh's execution.
He heard a story that's hard to hear. We told a story that's hard to tell.
Sources tell ABC News Ashcroft is leaning toward allowing a closed-circuit viewing of the execution either in Oklahoma City or at the prison in Indiana.
Many victims say it does not matter where, as long as they get to see it. Pierre Thomas, ABC News, Oklahoma City.
When we come back, medicine on the cutting edge. Potential cures for diseases hidden in fat. We'll take a closer look tonight at the media and the murder. Did the media calculatingly ignore a murder involving 2 gay men? And enormous tax bills for people who were about to become millionaires. The problem is they didn't.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Toyota.
People are so in love with their Camrys, they've made it the #1 selling car in America for the 4th straight year, with more repeat buyers than any other car.
Yoo-hoo! Take that laxative and you miss the bus. Huh? It contains harsh stimulants. Says on the label it could cause abdominal discomfort and cramps.
Sounds worse than constipation.
Oh, you bet. But Phillips is different. It's gentle and stimulant-free, so you don't have to feel worse before you feel better.
That's great. Excuse me? I said the bus is late.
Phillips, the comfortable way.
Why so many days in hotels near airports? So you don't have to worry about where to stay, no matter where you touch down. Days in.
There you go.
Meet Mark. Mark marks. Mark's mom, Peg, pledges. Pledge removes marker marks. Pledge stops crayon marks. Pledge gets very high marks. Everywhere Mark marks. Pledge cleans, conditions, and protects from a world full of marks.
What is it, Chuck?
You mean, what was it?
No nibbling.
Don't worry.
Is she kidding?
Now she's cooking.
Whiskas Homestyle favorites taste like food you'd make, if you could. Homemade tasting meals, each with all that slow-cooked goodness sealed in the Flavor Lock pouch.
Hi. Ready for dinner?
Trust me, he's not.
Should we save him some?
Whiskas Homestyle favorites, what cats want.
In medicine on the cutting edge tonight, there is a journal called Tissue Engineering. And today the journal finds that human fat may be a rich source of stem cells, which are the building blocks for a variety of cells. The potential implications from this are enormous. Here's ABC's John McKenzie.
Fat is something most people are only too eager to lose. More than 230,000 Americans remove it through liposuction every year, vacuuming it from hips and thighs and stomachs. The liquid fat simply thrown away. But researchers at UCLA saw an opportunity.
We're convinced that what we have is indeed a population of stem cells.
Dr. Mark Hedrick says he not only isolated these master cells from discarded fat, he then grew them into muscle or bone or cartilage cells, depending on what chemicals he fed them.
If we want to make bone, we want to add calcium, we want to add phosphorus, and we want to add vitamin C.
Which suggests cells from unwanted fat might one day be able to repair a damaged knee or hip. And because they'd come from your own body, there'd be no risk of rejection. If further tests confirm these versatile cells in fat are indeed stem cells, they might avoid the ethical questions of obtaining stem cells from human embryos, or the technical problems of collecting them from bones in adults. The next major step for researchers, see how these newly grown cells actually function once injected back into the body.
We could, in principle, use these stem cells to generate cardiac muscle cells to repair a damaged heart following a heart attack. They could ultimately be used to generate neurons, which could be used in, for example, therapy for Parkinson's disease.
And because the cells come from fat, there would be an abundant supply. John McKenzie, ABC News, New York.
In the national briefing today, North Dakota and Minnesota. Flood warnings all along the swollen Red River and along the Minnesota, too. The government says that rain this week and next will only make things worse. Crews spent another day shoring up dikes to protect cities and rural homes as well. On Wall Street today, there was no bad news about corporate earnings, and stocks, especially those in technology, staged a rally. For the first time since March the 15th, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed above 10,000. The Dow was up 257 points to close at 10,102. On the NASDAQ, stocks were up 106 points. When we continue, we'll take a closer look at a murder involving two gay men and accusations of media bias. And tonight, the technology millionaires who lost their money before they could enjoy it. Now it is time to pay the taxes.
I don't want to go jogging. I don't want to play hockey. All I want are nights with less pain, mornings with less stiffness, so Bo and I can go out early and catch up with all our friends.
Vioxx is here, a prescription medicine for the most common type of arthritis pain, osteoarthritis. With one little pill, taken just once a day, Vioxx can provide powerful 24-hour relief. People with allergic reactions such as asthma to aspirin or other arthritis medicines should not take Vioxx. In rare cases, serious stomach problems such as bleeding can occur without warning. Tell your doctor if you have liver or kidney problems. For more information, talk to your doctor about once-daily Vioxx for the relief of osteoarthritis pain. And you may be able to plan your day around your life instead of your pain. Ask your doctor if Vioxx is right for you. Vioxx for everyday victories.
Nature made it. Minwax makes it beautiful with rich wood stains and long-lasting protective finishes. Turning a house into a beautiful home is as easy as turning to Minwax.
It's so easy.
You'll love new and improved Ziploc Easy Zipper. Now you can easy zipper it and know it's closed. Ziploc Easy Zipper. Easy open, easy close. Easy zipper.
Why so many days in hotels for the business traveler? So you don't have to figure out where to stay when you're wheeling and dealing and working on the fly. Days in. There you go.
Welcome to a hot spot where pain and discomfort dwell. It's down at the end of Acid Street, the Heartburn Hotel. Well, your stomach's are burning, baby. The acids are churning, baby. You're getting heartburn all the time. Well, you change the way you're eating. You're getting exercise. You're treated for 2 days a week or more. The acid starts to rise.
Prescription Prevacid can mean 24-hour relief from acid reflux disease. Prevacid turns off tiny pumps that produce acid. It has a low occurrence of side effects, such as diarrhea, abdominal pain, and nausea. Ask your doctor if Prevacid is right for you.
So leave your heartburn behind. Yeah!
Our subject tonight is the media and murder and accusations of bias. There has been quite a furor recently, among conservatives particularly, that the gruesome killing of a teenage boy in Arkansas didn't get national attention because the two men accused of the murder were gay. The complaint has been, and it's been quite persistent, that much of the media ignored the case in which the accused were gay, but paid enormous attention to the case of a young gay man named Matthew Shepard, who was murdered in 1998, you may remember, in Wyoming. Now, news coverage is not a science, but in this case, we were struck by the accusations of bias. And so we decided to take a closer look. First, the crime. Here's ABC's Aaron Hayes.
Joshua Brown and Davis Carpenter were gay partners, moved here recently, and managed a local hair salon. That is about all neighbors knew about them until the night Carpenter called 911.
I have a guy. He's dead. Trying to resuscitate him. Did they ever play some kind of goddamn game?
Emergency crews found an apartment in chaos, feces on the floor, and a child dead. Jesse Durkising, barely 13, bound, drugged, tortured, and raped for 5 hours. Joshua Brown told police it had been a game.
I just tied his hands to the bed and stuff and his legs to the bed so he couldn't move nowhere, and I was messing with him.
Brown got life in prison. Carpenter goes on trial next month. The evidence is overwhelming. Handwritten instructions for the rape with diagrams that Brown said Carpenter wrote while looking on. Ha ha, one says. Tell the boy he'll be raped for the next 14 hours.
They drugged him with toxic levels of amitriptyline, and he slowly suffocated.
Prosecutors also say Carpenter had his eye on other children. In Carpenter's apartment, they discovered handwritten short stories, explicit, horrifying writings, envisioning future rapes and torture. One name among them, Diane Watkins' 10-year-old daughter. The Watkins lived across from Brown and Carpenter.
There wasn't a clue other than we believed that they were gay. And that's all, you know, and that's not uncommon today.
Brown's attorneys argued Brown had been lured by his much older gay lover, Carpenter, lost in a world of drugs, pornography, and deviant sex.
I'm convinced to the bottom of my heart that there was never any intent to kill Jesse.
Ironically, had the child not died, Brown not confessed, the rape itself might never have been prosecuted.
If you put a child in a courtroom to try to testify to those things, a lot of people would think you're just making that up.
Not this time. This time, they could prove it. Erin Hayes, ABC News, Rogers, Arkansas.
And the case, as we said, was not widely reported. There are many journalists, including people on this broadcast, who feel very strongly that this case in itself did not merit national attention. We don't report many gruesome crimes. But was it a case of bias? Was it not reported lest it feed anti-gay prejudice? Here's ABC's Aaron Brown.
To the protesters gathered outside the courthouse in Bentonville, Arkansas, it is simple. The national media, sympathetic to gays, will not report on any evil gays do.
The media doesn't want the public to think about homosexuality and pedophilia and torture and, the murder of children.
In their columns and on their websites, many, including some of the most anti-gay groups in the country, have been making this argument for months. But it was given more weight when it was embraced by one of the country's most provocative gay writers.
I think that there's clearly evidence that many people in the media decided, well, we're not going to go there because we know it'll feed anti-gay prejudice.
The fuel propelling this argument is the massive coverage Matthew Shepard's death received. Shepard, who was gay, was beaten and hung on a fence post to die by two straight men. It was the subject of thousands of stories in the papers and on TV. Why so much coverage for Shepard and so little for Durkheim? Eat paper! For most of the national press, the Washington Post, USA Today, World News Tonight, the counter-argument is simple.
For a crime story or a murder story, even a horrific and sad one like Jesse Durkheim, to be covered by the national press, I think there has to be an issue of larger social significance attached to it.
In Shepard, the issue was hate crime laws and whether they should extend to gays. In Durkheim, the media saw a terrible crime, but no larger issue. That may seem cold, but countless rapes and murders, gay and straight, go unreported all the time for exactly that reason, which is part of what's so remarkable about this debate, that it centers on a news decision that for most of the national media was easy and logical and routine. Aaron Brown, ABC News, New York.
Finally, we are aware there's an enormous volume of debate about this on the internet, and as always, you can express your opinion at abcnews.com, where we value opinion. When we come back, taxes.
When you eat Quaker oatmeal like we do, it actually works to remove cholesterol from your body.
We ate it every day for 30 days. Helped take 20 points off my cholesterol.
Even though we can't remove snow every day, we can remove cholesterol.
Quaker oatmeal
warms you heart and soul.
Have you gotten yourself into too much credit card debt? Why not point and click your way out of your current debt with a second mortgage from Ditech.com? Whether you have equity or no equity, Ditech has a second mortgage with no closing costs to help you lower your monthly payments now. So point and click your way out of high-interest, non-tax deductible credit card debt at Ditech.com. Apply online or call us at 1-800-71-FIXED right now.
My doctor says I'm healthier than he is. I swim every day.
If you suffer from arthritis pain, speak to your doctor.
The lake is good for your soul.
Tylenol Arthritis Pain, as effective as the most prescribed arthritis pain medicine, but much gentler to your stomach.
When I swim, I'm free.
Tylenol Arthritis Pain. And to help promote joint flexibility, try Aflexa, a glucosamine supplement.
You choose to be healthy. You choose to be successful. You choose to give back. You choose to be yourself. The choices you want the voice you need to make the most out of life. Today's AARP.
It's time to get comfortable. Time to welcome your family home to the cool comfort of air conditioning from York, powered by the superior technology of our exclusive TS compressor to deliver whisper quiet operation and maximum energy savings. And through May 31st, you can save on selected York home comfort systems with up to $300 cash back or 6 months no payments or interest financing. York, because now it's time to get comfortable. Call 1-800-910-YORK for the dealer nearest you.
This has more calcium than Tums?
It's true. Maalox Quick Dissolve Chewables have more calcium than regular Tums.
That's even better.
And they dissolve faster than Tums.
I'm gonna go for the Maalox.
Quick dissolve your heartburn away and get more calcium.
No doubt about it.
Coming up next on K2 News, new details emerge about a 31-year-old woman who posed as a Vancouver high school student. You'll hear about the false accusation she made against a Portland police officer. Also, you may have never heard of this kind of car theft. What happened to the seats? Join us for that story and more local news coming up next at 6:30.
Find this evening your taxes. We're on taxes all this week. Monday is the deadline for filing. It's been a disillusioning time for many people, especially those who owned millions of dollars in technology stocks. Here's ABC's Andy Serwer.
As an executive of an online company, Miles Weissletter made a salary of $60,000 a year, but his tax bill certainly doesn't reflect it.
My total tax liability for the year is in the ballpark of $40,000.
The reason? His company allowed him to buy stock cheaply through stock options. Last year, he paid $2.50 a share while the stock was trading at $37. Even though he didn't sell the stock, the government is taxing that paper gain.
I didn't realize $120,000 in gains. How could I owe taxes on it?
Good question, because of the alternative minimum tax. Originally created as a way to make sure the wealthy who used tax shelters paid their fair share, more and more it is affecting middle-income taxpayers who have stock options as part of their pay. California Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren is proposing legislation to ease their burden.
I can't believe that this is what Congress intended when they enacted this law. I wasn't in Congress at the time, but it's just fundamentally wrong.
The problem arose when cash-poor internet companies incorporated stock options as a part of employee pay. Once given mostly to executives, in the new economy, even rank-and-file employees were offered this risky form of compensation. In 1993, 1 million Americans owned options. In 1999, that number was up to 10 million.
Thanks for calling Amazon.com.
The problem, say experts, is Americans didn't investigate the risky tax implications of stock options.
I assume they must have understood that what they were getting themselves into when they accepted stock options as part of their compensation package.
For Miles Weissletter and others in his situation, it has turned out to be a costly assumption. Andy Serwer, ABC News, New York.
And that is our report on World News tonight. Tomorrow on World News, the law designed to make sure that wealthy people paid their taxes. It is now hurting people of more modest means. I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Don't forget Nightline later this evening. I'm Peter Jennings. Have a good evening. Good night.
It's an all-new case for a brand-new lieutenant.
He's not too hard on the eye.
And it's not going to be easy.
You come into my house with that attitude, we got a problem. This is what I need.
All new NYPD Blue, ABC tonight. Viewer discretion advised.